here to help you move forward in League.
What is up, everybody? This is the Four Awards podcast. My name is Azurishan. I'm here with the usual crew. Haberdashing.
Yep.
Doom Spikinator.
What up?
Frostbite.
Extra usual.
And we have two very special guests. Happy to have author of The Art of Top and Art of Support.
And Art of Mid.
And Art of Mid, yes. Pseudonaut. You gotta say hi.
Oh. How's it going, people?
It's an audio medium. Come on.
And a very special guest, Team Liquid's top laner, Quas. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us, dude. Very happy to have you on. So, obviously, we're going to talk about the book today, but we have a set of questions. You know, no news. We wanted to just jump right into these interviews. So, let's just go right into. I know Frostbite really wrote a lot of these. So, how about you start us off with the first question, Frost?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess there's a lot of things that we can talk about. This is just to give you some background on Four Awards. We're all about trying to help people move forward in League, and by doing that, it's trying to help them learn the game. So tonight we wanted to talk about a lot about top lane and just your thoughts on top lane and a lot of the things that you cover in your book. But before we get into that, I thought it would maybe make sense to just sort of ask, what inspired you to write The Art of Top Lane, and sort of what were you trying to achieve in writing this book?
Well,
Go ahead.
well, I was approached by Pseudonaut or John to write the book at the beginning. I was a bit, I guess, skeptical about it because there's no books on League really except the Art of Mid before that I heard about. So, I mean, I thought it could be a really good opportunity to put all the strategy and I guess all the concepts that pro players learn over the years into just like something you can read from and learn really easily. And since League's a very strategy-based game, and there's a lot of stuff that's besides mechanics that you can just learn from, I thought it would be a really good project to work on.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of the art of League in general, so there's a support, mid, and then there's going to be a top, is that, like Quas was saying, there's concepts and strategies that a lot of professionals know, but because they spend so much time playing the game and competing, they don't really have a way of writing them all out and for them to be accessible to a large audience. So this is a perfect way for people to.
I have a question that you're kind of touching on, and something Quas made me think of specifically. But you said that there are no books on League of Legends. I mean, there's plenty of books on sports, and League has been around for a while, and it's considered an esport by a lot of people. So I mean, why do you think that there are no books on League of Legends? And has that been a catalyst as to your interest?
I really don't know why there aren't any books on League, but you look at
it.
Yeah, you look at any other kind of game. It doesn't even have to be a video game. Like chess, backgammon. This is just a game that has a lot of complex strategy, and you see all these people at the top level writing about it. I think it's new. It's just a growing field.
Sure. All right. So shifting on to our main topic here, which is talking about top lane. I guess just to start out, could you give us a brief introduction to top lane and sort of what makes it unique compared to some of the other roles in the game? You talk quite a bit about it in this book, but just at a high level, what's kind of unique to top lane? What is really the role all about?
For top lane, a lot of it is just versatility, just being able to just take any role, a lot of roles, whether it's tank or a burster or support champions, there's just a lot of champions that you have available for top, and also just the pressure game is pretty much mostly from top lane with teleport. So there's a lot of different strategies you have available, like split pushing with teleport to be able to back up your team, and just very different strategies than other roles, which is what made me really want to start learning the role, and what I've, I guess, mastered for over the years going into LCS.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, what would you say are some of the misconceptions about top lane that a lot of people tend to generalize to the role or to the people or to the champs that play them?
Well, I think most people, when they think about top lane, they always refer to it as like an island, where it's like
Right.
they just think about like a Nasus farming queues for like 30 minutes. And I think there's a lot more to it. You can do a lot of plays with as a top laner, and the amount of pressure that you can apply on the game, the amount of impact you can have in a game is like pretty big for carrying your team. And yeah, I mean, it covered some of this stuff in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you said in the introduction to the book that versatility is the foundation for top lane. Your ability to fulfill different roles for your team, whether that be the tank, threat, or support, will ultimately determine your success or failure as a top laner. Why was it that you wanted to start the book with that image of top lane?
I think the way I see it is I value a lot having like a lot of champions in your pool to be able to pick from in certain situations. I never liked just like playing Riven every single game, that kind of thing, and relying on like cheesing the enemy guy and then winning.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more that you can get from top, so that's why I focus on versatility, like just being able to adapt. Oh, they have these guys, so I'm gonna pick this guy, or oh, this would complement my team, so I'll just go for this. And I think that's the approach to take for a top lane, other than others.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really different from what you would ask a lot of people, which is like, oh, well, you pick a bruiser and you sit on an island, you know? So kind of going from that into mechanics of the top lane. So what do you think are the core mechanics of the early game in the top lane? And what fundamental techniques do you think that you have to master to really excel in that role?
Well, as far as mechanics, it's just a solo lane, so it really the most important thing is just wave control early game. So not just pushing into the enemy guy all the time and then just getting ganked and just complaining at your jungler, hey, why aren't you backing me up? You know, that kind of thing. So that's basically the mechanics you want to have as a top laner, just like lane understanding, good trading.
Mechanics is such a huge scope. It's a word that encompasses so much. It's like
Right.
It's a very broad
Yeah.
question.
Well, I mean, you do break it down in the book a little bit when you talk about the 5 habits that you want people to develop when you're getting better at top lane. That includes, knowing your enemy, awareness of the map and the clocks, tracking of objectives and summoners, maintaining vision, and having clairvoyance. Not the spell, but the precognition, sort of.
Yeah, so chapter 2 is basically, I believe there's 5 different habits. I guess you could call it mechanics, but so like a lot of guides online won't go into just they'll go into like different strategies for different matchups, but they don't take a step back and look at the meta of just playing top lane and how you should approach thinking about it. Like that's what I really like about, well, at least chapter 2 of this book. So the first one, developing habits. I'm just looking at it right now.
Right. You get away from doing it so long and you forget what it is that you fucking wrote.
Yeah. No, so habits just actually I'm gonna let Quas, what would you say are like the top three habits for top lane? And I'm not talking about like, knowing when to push the wave. Just basic, maybe like not getting lazy is one thing that you wrote, and that's a huge thing for people, like staying focused, going into the game with the right mind, like a healthy mindset. Because I like in here we wrote like go to the gym every morning, exercise to stay alert.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of habits you can have. Um, I think the most important is just the mindset one, honestly. Like I see a lot of people just like tilt themselves out of a game, and I think just being like patient and not trying to beat the other guy too hard, or just knowing pretty much just like creating a plan for your game. I think is the most important one, where you just know, okay, like I'm gonna outscale this guy, so there's no need to like over trade early game, and then I can help bottom because they're being pressured. All those little things. Just thinking about the games more, just proactive thinking. I guess clairvoyance is what you can say. Is knowing what's gonna like happen and just getting yourself ready for it, having a plan for it. So I would say that would be the biggest habit to go into, and then the rest are just complementing like that idea
Yeah.
pretty much.
So
Some of those are. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing you mentioned in the book, which I really liked, was this idea of small victories. And I think that's like was an interesting mindset and approach to top lane. So, what do you sort of mean by that? Why are small victories so important in League or in top lane in general?
I kind of went for that statement pretty much out of my own playstyle and the LCS. I was never a flashy player. I was never the guy who would just jump in and get a quadra kill. But I would always be ahead of my lane opponent and always be prepared to do the plays that I was supposed to do, and just little by little creating a lead for my team that would just get us into late game and having a really good performance overall. So that's pretty much what I say when I try to, I guess, just project that mindset of small victories. It's just that you don't really have to make that flashy play in Riven. You don't have to just like flash in. It's like, I keep saying Riven, but there's a lot of champions you can.
You seen a
you
fixation on Riven.
Yeah, I don't like the.
It's because all the one trick ponies they just play Riven.
Right.
That's
Like
true.
90% of one trick ponies are Rivens.
There's like
Darius.
there's
Terrible.
one Garen player up there. I know it.
Yeah, but that's pretty much what I'm going for. Is just that there's a lot of ways you can actually create a lead for yourself in very safe ways that don't require you to risk dying, and eventually will get you ahead anyway, and then you can get a cleaner victory.
Sure.
I really liked that whole concept of small victories because it really ties into a concept that we talk about a lot on the show, which is win conditions. And I think it ties in really well, like looking at what are the small victories and then how do those small victories add up to your win conditions. What gets you to that end game. So when you're in a game and you're hitting those small victories, what like how do you start to prioritize and say, all right, this is what I need to do now to get to my end game? Like, at what point do you start thinking about the end game, or do you just kind of go step to step to step?
I would say I just take it like step by step. When I'm loading screen, when I'm in champ select and I see what the enemy is picking, I already know how I'm going to be playing the lane, depending on the jungler and the top laner, obviously. And then after that, depending on how the enemy is playing the lane, then I can play a certain style or just fall back to my plan. So you can adapt as you're going into the game, depending on how the enemy is playing. And pretty much, I would say you always have a plan going into it, but then you adapt to depending on whatever is going on, and you can make create more possibilities for those small victories that we're talking about.
Okay,
Sure.
So when does this sort of plan start developing? Is it, the second that champs are locked in queue? Does it happen before that? When you're starting to build team comps? What's kind of going through your mind when you're first picking your champ? to accomplish your goals.
Yeah. So once you see the enemy team comp, I mean, first of all, I really like picking top last if possible, or very late into the champion rotation, because like I said, it's a very versatile role. So being able to pick something that will really go well against what they have or complement your team is really important. And the plan does start when you see those champions. You start thinking, okay, how am I going to beat these guys? All right, they have a lot of squishy champions, for example. Okay, maybe I need to play an assassin to like kill them off, or just play something with CC so my allies can kill them. So you can start planning for the team fights immediately, or for the late game plan immediately and champ select. But for laning phase and other stuff, you can plan beforehand if you have thought about a matchup. There's multiple ways to play matchups, so that's another thing you can work on.
Okay.
Just like thinking about it before the games.
I also have a question.
Yeah, sure.
In the LCS, Quas, how much would you say you picked a top laner for your team? Or so I guess there would be like three conditions. You would either pick for your team composition, you would pick against the enemy team composition, or you would just pick it because it's a safe pick and you needed to fill just one pick and then maybe get another role at the end. I know a lot of people like to save their support or their mid laner, and then for the last pick, and then jungler is usually kind of variable. It doesn't get countered too much. Oh, and also to counter the lane that you're playing against.
Yeah. So in LCS or in competitive play, what pretty much happens is that just the OPs are the ones that get like the strongest champions are the ones that get picked first, no matter what you're going for. You always want to draft around those strong champions. So like there's a patch where it's like before, where Hecarim was really strong, we always picked Hecarim really early. We didn't really care about matchups or anything. We just picked them, and then we try to get through laning phase, and then
like now it'd kind of be if Gangplank's left up, people pick them.
Yeah, pretty much just
any.
Like Poppy. You see Poppy playing a lot. Like Fiora, those type of champions that get banned a lot.
So how does that really transition into solo queue? Would you recommend the same things for what the things that are going through you and your team's head in competitive? Does that transition well in for a solo queue player?
It could transition well, and I would always advise to play the strongest champions available. But I still think that just having secret, just like pocket picks that really go well against some champions is better than picking those OP champions.
Okay.
Because you can actually abuse all their champions' weaknesses and maybe snowball the game a lot harder. So I still think about versatility with solo queuing over just relying always on the OP champions.
Sure. So I want to transition a bit now. So we talked a lot about the pre-planning going into the game and trying to kind of fit that versatility and fit that niche in your team. So now that we've kind of moved into the laning phase itself, how does one play essentially effectively in top lane? How do you decide when's the right time to trade with someone, or when do you adopt an aggressive play style, and sort of how do you play out the laning phase in top?
For matchups specifically, there's a lot of for how to play the lane, it depends on the matchup and what you're trying to get out of the lane, and also how the enemy player is playing.
Okay. Well,
so,
can we get like let's just take like an example here. Like, what's your favorite top laner to play like right now?
Well, I've been playing a lot of random champions right now, but I would say Swain's always been a special guy.
Okay, so let's say like
top lane.
Yeah, you're playing Swain versus a Fiora.
That's awesome.
Going with Steve's question, how would you use that knowledge in that matchup to really decide, when can I go aggressive using that matchup?
All right. So, you'd have to know what the strengths of the enemy champion are. So I'd always advise to play a lot of champions so you know when their strong points are, like the power spikes are. So for that champion, for that matchup specifically, I would just advise you trade safely and then just wait for ganks and just try to outscale later on, try to team fight.
But I guess like what we're trying to like, how do you decide? Okay, when can I trade safely? What are the conditions I need to meet to be able to like win that trade?
Well, we do have a section in the book.
That's true.
I think it's what he wants us.
Right.
Okay, so there's a section called timing aggression, right? Some of the sections in there, it goes into talking about like if you have more minions, then you're most likely going to win a trade. You know, if you have 10 minions in your wave and then they only have 4, you would want to pressure or zone them. Trade or zone. You take into account where their jungler is, where your jungler is, but that's a really good time to be aggressive if their spells are on cooldown. If you have a health pool lead, like if you have 80% and they have 40%, and you can force like a small trade, get them down to 20 or 30, then it's really easy to zone them afterwards. Just conceptual stuff like that is when you would want to play aggressive.
Yeah. Power spikes, I think, work into that as well, which is another point you talk about in the book. Level 2 power spikes now seem to be becoming more important in the top lane now that we're kind of getting towards more aggressive champions being more common picks. So how do you really capitalize on something like a level 2 or level 6 power spike?
Well, it depends on what champions you're talking about, but generally you won't get much out of earlier power spikes. It would only be like towards the later levels, like 4, 5, 6. Whenever you, like for example, the most common power spikes is when you level up an ability. For example, Irelia gets a big power spikes at like level 5 when she gets 3 points in W. So you can actually gain a lot more power than your opponent typically in a trade. So depending on your champion's kit, you'll just decide on what you want to play around in the matchup. So you generally, for example, if you're playing Nautilus and you've been using your E's, you don't want to, like after you get a good trade with your E, most likely you want to just back off, wait for your cooldown, and then trade again. So that's how you want to play a matchup. Like you wouldn't want to just keep walking in them with your anchor after you use your spells, because generally you'll like come out behind out of that. So it just mostly depends on like the matchup, like I said.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like another type of power spike that we often, talk about is item power spikes. While certain champions do have sort of like their core items that they develop, one of the big differences in top lane versus like AD carry is that you have the option to build either offensively or defensively on a lot of different champions. What kind of goes into your decision making when building items for the top lane like that?
When I itemize, I generally want to go for offensive items at the beginning and then kind of transition into more tanky after that, because you generally want to just be stronger in the laning phase in terms of trading and your abilities, and then once the team fights come, that's when you need to be tanky. So that's when you start building tankier. But if it was like a champion that relies only on damage, like Gangplank, I would just go all out on the damage and not get tanky. And I mean, if it's like a tank like Nautilus, I would just go tanky.
Sure.
I mean, if you're
like a champion like Darius, where like Black Cleaver is pretty popular. When exactly, if ever, would you build another damage item like Titanic Hydra, or I can't, like maybe Trinity Force, or some other damage item on Darius? When would you think it'd be okay to do that?
There's certain times that it's better to build defensively. Like if you're playing against a composition that has a lot of AD champions, they don't really have much AP threat, then it's really efficient to go for armor. So you would not want to go for more damage items after your Black Cleaver, for example. You would just get armor because it means pretty easy to win the game after that. But generally, if you're doing pretty well in your lane and you want to carry harder, like if your team's not doing that well and you really need the damage to actually make more plays happen,
Okay.
then that would be a better situation to go for the damage approach. But if you're playing more of like a control game and your team's doing fine and you just want to scale up and get useful, like not die too quickly in later team fights, then going for a tanky approach then will be better after that.
So it's always kind of the safer approach if you don't know what to build.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
So I do want to kind of jump back to something we talked about a little bit earlier. You mentioned that top lane it's really important to understand wave control and how to manipulate the minion waves. What are some key things and practices that you do in top lane in order to kind of use the minions to your advantage? And when does it sort of make sense to freeze versus shoving the lane?
So, depending on how you want to play out the next minute of the lane is how you want to control the wave. So, for some matchups, for example, if you have no other way of beating the enemy champion in small trades, then you might want to just push out the wave to stir it and then make him lose CS a turret. Like if you're not scared of the jungler, then a good playstyle is just to push all the way all the time and try to make him miss CS on the turret, and then you get ahead out of that. And in terms of just freezing and pushing the wave, I mean, for freezing, it's more of like if you want to create kill potential on the enemy champion, then that's when freezing comes into mind, where he would have to put himself at a risky spot. And go ahead, John.
For like, are you talking for ganks or just to like zone him, and then if he does try and come up, you go all in and then kill him? I guess it would be both, but
yeah, it could be for both. If you want to get good chunks, like if you know you can trade better than the enemy champion, freezing is really useful for that, just to create those scenarios where he would have to walk up to CS, and then you go for the extended trade. And also for the ganks, obviously it's a lot easier to pull off.
Okay.
And just as a general tip, because we have a lot of newer players that listen to this show, how do you sort of freeze a minion wave? What are you generally looking to do in order to kind of, prevent the wave from shoving in one direction?
Okay, so for freezing, basically what you want to do is just try to have your minions die as much as possible, and then the wave will just push towards you. So some things that are beneficial to it is just going for auto attacks on the enemy champions, because that when you auto attack an enemy champion, their minions will aggro you. And wait, sorry, that's for pushing. That's not for
Like, wait a second.
But yeah, that's for pushing. So sorry, what I was trying to say is that if you bait the enemy champion to auto attack you, his lane will naturally push towards you. So if you're playing a tanky guy, one of the things I really like doing, if you are new to top lane and you just want to be annoying right off the bat, this is something really useful, is that when one of your minions gets low, if you're playing a big guy like Nautilus, you can just stand actually like on top of the minion. So they would have a really hard time last hitting the minion, and actually a lot of time will hit you, and that would push their wave towards you as well. So
because then your wave focuses the guy,
Right.
and then their minion wave isn't focusing you, so it would slowly push in, or it would freeze. Push freeze depends how many minions there are, but assuming an equal wave, yeah.
Cool.
So you should just play Nautilus every game and just stand on top of minions.
Hey, he's pretty strong right now. I don't see why not.
You could have played
is he
Hecarim
really
until he
strong?
lost his. Sorry, no, I want to hear more about Nautilus now.
Not today. So obviously it's a 1v1 lane in top lane, and generally it can turn into a bit of a snowball fest depending on how the lane goes early. So what are some general tips you have if you start to get a lead over your lane opponent, whether you've maybe got a kill on them or you've started to zone them from CS? What are your sort of tactics if you've started to take control of the lane to kind of push that advantage?
Snowball.
I guess the best thing to keep in mind is that if you're stronger, if you're snowballing, um, you can only get punished by a gank, by a jungler gank, and that's where you gotta just communicate with your jungler and say, hey, I'm stronger than this guy, 1v1. If their jungler comes, we can counter gank and get a lead out of it, and if he doesn't come, we can just kill this guy or dive him or pressure him out or something. So that's where the communication part comes in. When you're snowballing, if you want to snowball safely, then you should have your jungler come and help you. Um, but if you want to just, I guess, go for riskier plays, then go ahead. You can make a lot of stuff happen. But generally, the best advice that I can give is play with your jungler. If you're stronger than the enemy top laner, you can any place that you'll make top, either a counter gank or just pressure, you'll get ahead. Like it will be safe because you're stronger in that side of the map. So like invading for blue buff, getting the Rift Herald now in this patch, just pushing, taking turrets down, or diving the guy. There's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, speaking of Rift Herald here, what are like your opinions on that whole new mechanic in the game?
Well, I think it's definitely a really easy easy monster to take if you have the time. Like if you push the enemy champion into their turret and then you go for Herald, it's really nice, and you just like hit the back and kill it in like 10 seconds. It's pretty useful. But the buff itself is not really that big of a deal unless you're actually going to do something with it.
Okay.
I would generally want the jungler to take it because the movement speed is really nice for him to move around the map and do other stuff, and also the damage helps him jungle and everything. For top lane, it's not really that big of a deal to have the buff, unless you want to have your jungler come to your lane and siege the enemy turret. But generally, Rift Herald is not that impactful for your lane, so I wouldn't say it's a massive mechanic that was added.
Okay.
Do you usually give the buff to your jungler, or do you take the buff for your lane? Because it does buff your minions, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
But is it better on well, like who do you think should take it in a normal scenario?
So I guess it depends on like how you're playing the lane. If you're playing someone that's tanky and is just pushing the enemy guy and 24/7, not really afraid of ganks, then maybe taking the buff will be better. So the minions will just damage the turret and slowly chip away at it. But generally, I think the jungler should take it. The move fit speed is really nice for him to go around the map and finish camps or always be at the right spots. I think it gives like 40 movement speed, which is really nice for them. For top lane, you don't really need that movement speed that badly. So I would say that's... Sorry.
No, I was just gonna. It's a matter of not needing it so much as needing it in a specific situation, and the jungler can make more benefit from it, ganking, killing their own jungle camps, etc.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, in certain situations, having the buff could put you at a disadvantage in top lane because now your minion wave is always pushing.
Yeah, and the minions will steal your last hits as well as to get stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how it could backfire.
Yeah, so we've talked about, leaving the lane to maybe go for a Rift Herald, but maybe just branching that out in general. We said at the start of the show a common misconception is that top lane is an island where you just kind of sit there and that's the game. Like, when does it make sense for you to try and roam to other parts of the map, and what are some like signals that might make you want to go for a roam, and sort of how do you be effective at roaming from top lane?
So the most important thing with the roaming is, at least for top lane, is just like, can you push the enemy guy in, the enemy champion in? If you can't push him, then you can either invade the jungle or look for a gank on mid laner. That's the most common. If they have a really aggressive mid laner and you have a top laner that has some crowd control or at least some like good amount of damage, then you can simply just push in your wave all the way to the turret and then get into the enemy jungle, like drop some trinkets under like red or any buff that would give you really good vision, and then after that looking for the ganks. But unless your allies, like for example your mid laner, unless he communicates that the enemy mid laner has no flash or something, it would be really hard to get something out of it, like something valuable. So I would generally not want to go for any like much roaming playstyles. unless the enemy champion's playing really aggressively. If, for example, they have a Yasuo. I think Yasuo is like one of the most aggressive mid laners that always are pushed in with relatively low escapes. Like if you have any champion that is getting pushed in by that, then you can go for those lane shoving and then rotating to roam and gank the lane.
Sure. And building off of that, we actually had a question from Twitter that was about roaming. It was someone wrote in asking, what do you do when your lane opponent roams? What factors determine if you would follow their roam or if you would just push the lane?
If your lane opponent roams?
Yeah.
I think for top laners, unless your teleport is down, you don't really have to worry about that much, because usually if the enemy top laner roams, you can just teleport in and help out. But I guess if it's down, then you can just communicate with pings that he's missing and always pushing the wave. I think always trying to make a habit of shoving the wave in all the way as fast as possible, and then after that moving to help is the best approach to it, because at least you deny that wave. So regardless of whatever happens, you'll still be ahead a wave because you denied it by pushing it, and then you can help out. So if you just leave the lane as is and then go help, and then, oh, it's too late, my ally died, and you go back to lane, you really didn't really get much. So I would say at least try to shove the wave before you go help out if you're lane in the room. And yeah, try to keep your TP so you don't have to worry about that if possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so speaking of TP, I think that's a really great thing to transition to. So
Segue.
The first thing I guess to ask is, so a lot of people have to make that choice, teleport or ignite. What makes you decide to go for teleport versus ignite? Is it based off the champions? Is it based off of the team compositions? What makes that decision for you?
For me, I would say that if you're playing a lane bully that doesn't really have any like follow up to a teleport, like has low mobility, and if he was to make a teleport play, he wouldn't really get much out of it, then ignite would probably be better, because as a lane bully, you're probably going to be ahead in health, and if you get ganked, you can actually pressure the jungler and maybe even kill him, so you can generate more pressure early game with the ignite. So I would say that for solo queue, ignite's definitely a really viable summoner spell, as long as you play intelligently with it, like not overextending too much, because if you do die, then you don't have a teleport to get back to the lane and such. But yeah, I would say if your goal is just to snowball and you're confident in your ability to outlane the enemy champion, then Ignite's probably the way to go. But if you're playing like a playmaker like Malphite or Lissandra that has really strong TP ultimate plays on the map, I would suggest just taking the teleport and looking for those plays to snowball the game.
Sure. So the next logical question is, teleport being one of the more complicated summoner spells to use in the game, what are some techniques to sort of use teleport effectively and actually, use that summoner spell to its fullest potential besides just, I don't know, get back to lane faster?
So yeah, I see a lot of people have really, even in professional play, they have really, I guess, premature teleports, where they're just completely not needed, and they just teleport in, and it's like, hey, I'm here. It's like, wait, okay, and the enemy champion's just taking the turret. So for teleports, my biggest advice would just be to wait for like a very strong commitment by the enemy team. So wait for the Braum, like bot lane, wait for that Braum to flash ulti, and then, okay, he's pretty deep in, I'm going to teleport in.
Right.
And just wait for something big to happen, like Ezreal dashing in, like something to be used before you start channeling your teleports. And that will make the best out of it. You don't really want to force too hard. Like I've seen people have awareness of the teleports sometimes. Depends on your elo, of course. But at least for laning phase, another thing you want to do is always push out your lane before you look for teleports, so you don't miss the wave at all. And if the enemy top laner wants to teleport as well, to help out, he would have to give up the wave that's under his turret. So I would say those two tips should make your teleports a lot more consistent for, I guess, for learning how to use the summoner spell.
I have a mechanic question. So a lot of teleport relies on your ability to be aware of what's happening on the rest of the map, and obviously that requires you to not be looking at your character. So how would you recommend newer players go about learning how to not necessarily always focus on themselves and learning how to get adjusted to looking at other parts of the map safely?
Well, at least for me, I mean, I've always just depending. Okay, so from a support perspective, if I need to pay attention to certain parts of the map, I just get really good at clicking on the mini map and to quickly go there to look where I need to look, and then just press spacebar to get back to my champion. So it's a matter of just being able to have the mechanics to like click on the mini map really quick, and then spacebar, and then mini map spacebar, and you should, as long as you're not doing too much, like if you're just farming a wave and you're not trading, then you can get away with not looking for a second or two.
And is there anything that you're like specifically looking for when you're doing that? Because you probably do it very briefly. Like, that was kind of a rhetorical question because I wanted you guys to answer it. But I also wanted to see, like, is there anything specifically that you're trying to look for each time you're taking a peek at each lane?
Well, I guess it depends in the context. If you were talking like TP for top, it's what's going on. Is your team contesting dragon? Are you looking for opportunities to gank bot? You have to pay really close attention to like where your wards are around the map, because you got to know where you can TP in, and if when you do TP in, will you have enough time to channel and then move in? And I think that's getting used to that is where the decision making. If you can hone that, especially for team fights, like finding the right ward to TP into and then flank around, is really huge. I don't know if you want to add anything to that,
Yeah,
Mr. Diego Ruiz. Come on,
I would just add that just back for new players, I would say always make sure you back off the lane before you start your TP. You don't want to just start channeling teleport right in front of a Renekton that's just gonna stun you. And
that would be
always
very bad.
try to always be in the brush and out of sight. So, I mean, obviously it comes with a lot of map awareness for new players. That might be hard. I guess pings are pretty good. Like, people are going to spam ping sometimes, and when there's a ping going on, you're like, oh, what's going on? So you check the map, and you're like, okay, does these guys need my help? Oh, okay, that guy flashed in. Okay, I'm teleporting. Just making sure that you're not going to get canceled. And I guess it just comes with a lot of experience, just knowing, like, is my teleport needed? Because a lot of the time you're not going to get an answer from your teammates that are trying to run away for their life. So
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
you're just going to have to create that sense of, like, like understanding if you're going to be, if your teleport is actually going to help the situation out, or if it might actually make it worse. Like, if you're just going to die, if it's too late to teleport, those little things just come from playing the game and just knowing the situations, how they play out. So
Yeah, so jumping... yeah,
well,
go ahead.
I want to add on top of that. I think a lot of people deny themselves the ability to learn the limits of their champion and what their teleport can do by not experimenting enough, like not going for it enough. I think it's the best mindset to have when you're testing something out. Because if you think, okay, so let's say you're looking at a situation and you don't know what to do. Like, you're top lane and you see a fight break out bottom, and you don't know whether you should TP in. Well, if you don't know whether you should TP in, it's because you haven't experimented in that setting with that situation enough to know where the line is. So you should be able, if you can't make the decision, if you can't tell yourself, like, no, I shouldn't, or yes, I should, then you should try and see and then learn from the failure, so that then the next time you can say, I know what happened last time, I don't want to do that, because the situation was just like the last one.
That's That's not to say do the stupidest things in the world just to see if you can get away with it.
I've done it.
Yeah, I mean,
I suppose.
You got to learn your
you
limits.
try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely something we've stressed a lot. We actually even had Hai on the show a few weeks back, and that was like the one piece of advice he gave to everyone is, you got to try and you got to learn your limits and you got to like see whether or not you made the right decision. But speaking of decision making, I really wanted to progress a little bit past what happens after the laning phase. So once outer turrets start to fall and the mid game sort of kicks into high gear, what is sort of the role of the top laner? How do you kind of decide what you're going to do, whether that's grouping up or whether that's split pushing? What kind of guides your decision making?
I keep going back at this, but it's all relative to champions and everything that's going on in the game. But I would say just top laner's role would be more about wave control, like wave management. And if there's any pressure coming out where with people out of position, say your bot lane for some reason is pushing mid, and then they have their AD carry pushing bottom, the enemy AD carry is pushing bottom on his own, then you should be the one going bottom and getting that wave, protecting the turrets. So I would just say always making sure that you're pushing out waves and then rotating to your team and trying to make plays happen would be the best thing to do. Depends on the champions. You might want to just split push all day if you're like turn the mirror jacks or something like that. If you're not tanky enough to be useful to your team, then you should be useful to your team by pressuring on your own, split pushing. If you hit a power spike, let's say you just finish an item or you just hit level 11 or a champion or something like that, you might want to just group up and force while the enemy, say Kog'Maw doesn't have his Rage Blade yet, for example. It's just about getting better at understanding when champions are stronger than others and playing around that. I would say top lane has a lot to do with that because of the teleport aspect, where you can just apply split pressure or force someone else to come to your pressure and then teleporting and making a play happen. So there's a lot of things you can do once mid games come. So it's just, like I said, relative to the game itself.
Sure.
Okay.
And so kind of going a little further here, how do you... So dragons and Baron spawns are super important. And I was just kind of wondering how you, as a top laner, sort of prepare when you think like a dragon's going to spawn. And how do you try and be very effective? Like, where do you want to be on the map? How do you try and create opportunities for your team?
For right now, since dragons aren't really that important, at least after the first dragon. I mean, they did change the
Second
buffs
dragon's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, second dragon is good for like pushing and stuff, but I would say committing to a dragon is not as big as just taking a turret down. I think turrets are really important to take down. So if like the top outer is not already down yet by mid game, I would just prioritize getting that before doing anything else. But generally for dragons and barons, you want to just create pressure like in the opposite side of the map. So if there's dragon, that would be top lane. So just push up the wave, get deep wards, and then deep wards are actually very important to have. So just keeping those. I'm personally I really like just the regular yellow trinket for top laners, just because you can actually get deep wards in. Not a fan of like sweepers or like blue trinkets because it's harder to get like constant deep vision in. So I would say for those objectives, it would be best to just push out the wave and then get deep wards in the opposite side jungle. So if you see the jungler or like anyone farming like at the side of the map, you can say, okay, they're doing this. I'm going to teleport to the Baron or teleport to Dragon, and we start this because they're out of position. So that would be my advice to just approaching those objectives and creating a lead for your team by getting the vision in as a top laner, since you'll be pushing the waves and be on the side of the map, and just initiating those situations once you see that you have the numbers advantage for it.
Sure. So one strategy that you mentioned before was you talked a little bit about split pushing. So I think split pushing is something that gets a lot of people very frustrated in solo queue, and sometimes it works extremely well, and other times it fails miserably. What are some common pitfalls that people make when they're trying to split push, and what should you really be trying to do to split push effectively?
Oh man, I had so many games where I lost. I just tell my team, don't fight, don't get caught. I'm gonna split, and you just hear like ally has been slain over and over again. So for solo queue is completely random. To be honest, like split pushing is just. I would say split pushing in solo queue a lot of times comes to desperation. Like if your team is just feeding like really bad and you don't think you're gonna win any team fights, then you're just gonna be okay. I'm gonna split.
Hey guys, this is Haberdashing from the Four Wards podcast. Thanks for listening to the Art of Tops.
What? So,
Sorry, Haber.
Hey guys, this is Haberdashing from the Four Wards podcast.
What?
Thanks for
is going
listening
on?
to this edition with the Art of Top with Pseudonaut and Quas.
can't hear us.
What is going on?
Oh God, I forgot.
Never seen
Yeah, my bad. My bad.
Please don't.
Working on.
Please don't cut that out. Please don't cut that out.
I was working on the bumper. Forgot to mute. Shit.
You muted our audio too, so you couldn't hear us telling.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I took. Fuck.
Okay, so back on track.
technical
Jesus. All right.
difficulties.
split pushing. We were talking about split pushing, and before Quas was rudely interrupted, you were talking about the chaos of
Sorry.
solo queue.
Don't worry about it.
So you were saying that sometimes like your teammates would get caught and get slain, and there's a bit of a chaotic element too. But how do you kind of break through the chaos? When does it actually? What are some like techniques that lead to effective split pushing?
I guess the best technique would be just communication, really. Just being the annoying mass pinger like that just pings back like a ton of times and just goes and takes down turrets anyway. I would say that's the best approach. If you want to split push in solo queue, just tell him in chat, I'm gonna split push, don't die, and then you just spam pings while you're pushing the minion waves. You just keep spamming, and really that's the best approach because people often think in solo queue that they know what they're doing. They think they know better than what you're doing, so they're just gonna try to make the play happen. So really, communication sometimes won't work, but at least trying is just the best approach to it. I've had a ton of games where I just lost because my team wouldn't listen to what I try to communicate. And I guess just keeping an eye as well while you're split pushing, just keeping an eye on what your team is doing. Like not just looking at the minions that you're splitting. I would say just put your champion on auto attack mode and just have your screen just pan towards what's going on. Just being ready to like teleport, being ready to help out whenever something happens. And I would say those would be like the biggest tips I could give for that.
So
Sure.
would you consider split pushing in solo queue a desperate like act? Would you would you recommend other alternatives before you tried to split push? I guess is what I'm asking.
Depends on the champions. I would recommend it. But if you're playing a squishy champion, usually you just want to just split anyway. Usually if you're playing like a Tryndamere, grouping up to defend a turret, like you're not going to be able to defend the siege really well. So it would be really hard for you to do anything else other than just split in certain situations. But if you're playing even like a tanky champion, even like a Poppy, which is not that great at pushing turrets, if you think your team has no chance to win a team fight and you just want to scale, that's the biggest thing, honestly. Just if you want to get to a late game, taking a fight earlier on would be a big risk. But just trading a turret would get you another window of opportunity to get further into the game. So I would say it's kind of a desperation move, but also kind of just trying to prolong the game by split pushing. That's kind of the way I see it.
Okay.
Sure.
Excellent.
We did get a question here. This is kind of slightly jumping back to what we already talked about before, but I think it's an interesting question. So what happens if you start to fall behind in lane, or maybe you were matched up with like a counter pick of some sort? How do you kind of adopt your play style if you're up in a bad matchup in the top lane?
So counter picks are a very common thing. Like sometimes you're gonna be put in that situation where you're just gonna be playing a terrible matchup. Um, I would say a lot of people's mistakes is that they still try to play the lane as if they would be fine. So I think it's something I cover also in the book, which is just kind of like making sacrifices kind of a thing. Just like giving things up, like when you actually have to, otherwise you're gonna get punched too hard. So say you have that juicy cannon minion that you want to get, but you'll just lose 300 HP off a trade if you go for it. Like it's definitely not worth it. So just playing safe and acknowledging that this guy, the Darius that is gonna chunk you, is stronger right now, but later on you're just gonna do more than him. So it's more of like understanding that even though the matchup is really bad, as long as you're not dying, which is the most important thing, as long as you're keeping up in levels, you can make a play and help out your team a lot more than trying to still win the lane, even though odds aren't in your favor.
Sure. I think I did want to open up this here. I know this is the Art of Top Lane episode, but you have several sections in the book where you talk a lot about mindset, and essentially, how to climb the ranks. Is there any, one or two general tips that you would say you found very helpful in just trying to improve your play and climb the ranks in solo queue?
You want to start out, John? Maybe you have some.
To just climbing in general, you have to have. I mean, there's like three things. I think you need time, you need effort, and you need knowledge. That sounds so cheesy, but
yeah, it's true though.
But I think a lot of it comes down to patience. Don't expect to just get into the game, and you're just gonna shoot right up. You play Riven every game, and don't play Riven.
We're just hating on the Riven
We are
mains
just-
tonight.
Seriously.
Yeah, this podcast is not Riven friendly.
Quas will disown you if you play Riven.
She's my background right now too.
We forgive you. So just be be patient and develop an enjoyment for the game, because you're not going to climb if you go into it thinking like, if I don't win, I won't be satisfied. Losing's never fun or enjoyable, but if you enjoy the game, it's going to make everything like 10 times as easy, because you're not queuing up to get points, you're queuing up to have fun, and as a result, you usually will win for that. And I've had times where I was like losing a lot, and I just, going into my next match, had a really bad mindset, and I just kept losing more. And I found like a good way to break out of that and continue to just have fun and get back to what the game really was to just play random champions. Like I actually have played about just like every single champion for the support role to some varying degree of success, and actually learned a lot about the role. And it's just like it applies to top. You Quas, I don't know if you would recommend this, but if you're having a bad time, like I would just play something random, try and enjoy my time playing, and then later on I would get back into like playing the good picks, and playing like a solid game, but also branching out and learning a bit more about the boundaries of the role in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that approach. Maybe playing some normal games so you don't troll your rank.
Play it in normal.
Right.
That's
the random picks.
Play the top lane gems.
You know what also helped a lot? Playing with a friend, playing with someone you enjoyed playing with, and someone who was good. For top lane, like you could play with a jungler and really like stomp your lane if your jungler wanted to just.
I think that's such a great duo, especially because a lot of people will get in the top lanes and island mindset, and then then they get tilted when they're like, oh, you're just camping top and stuff, but by working well with someone, really get ahead and just have that good game where you're like, all right, I feel good after that game.
Yeah, those games are really enjoyable, and I've been at the receiving end of that duo synergy.
Yeah.
I have
Oh god.
I've had 2v1s thrown at me. I've had like the jungle just sitting in top like 24/7. But like really, it's really good for solo queue. Tilting players is, I mean, obviously a strategy that I also go into the book because people just like to be the victims and just like type in chat, oh, you keep camping me. Oh, you can't beat me 1v1. But that's just they're losing anyway, you know.
Yeah.
And that's such a big deal out of league as well. Just like getting to know what is making the players like play worse and trying to abusing that. So maybe that what you're saying, the top and jungle synergy is pretty good for that as well. And going back to the question about just the things that at least make me better about ranking up, I would say just taking some time after each game, especially if it's a loss. I would just say take some time and just think about what you could have done better. And instead of just queuing up immediately after and just be like, oh, my team just sucked, you know, just trying to think like, oh, maybe when I went for display bottom, like I died, maybe that would have that gave him a lead that could have been prevented. Those things just make you better, gives you a better understanding of the game, and also gets you untilted, because when you start blaming other people all the time, you're just going to be tilted. But if you just actually take the blame for yourself and analyze what's going wrong, then you're actually improving and just enjoying the games more, because you're not blaming everything on everyone else except but what your mistakes are. And yep.
Okay, so we got to be wrapping up here soon. John, where is it that people can find and get the art of Top Lane?
Okay, so you can go to, now it's not out right now. It's going to be out in roughly, I would say, 3.5. Yeah, it's coming soon to a Barnes and Noble. Maybe, but it'll be out in 3.5.
Do those even exist anymore?
Of course they exist.
Barnes and Noble, they're everywhere, man.
I don't see bookstores anywhere anymore.
You don't see books, you illiterate fuck.
Anyway,
so you can.
Is there an audiobook?
That would be something.
We're considering it. That might be a special treat.
There you
go. But you can go to theartofleague.net and you can find it on there. It'll be on there in about, like I said, 3 to 4 weeks, and it'll have information about all of the other books too on there. But you guys just keep an eye out for it. It's going to be really good. Also, for those of you who do want to climb the ladder, all that other stuff about like not tilting and doing, that's good. But man, you want to get better, you want to learn.
Read a book.
Legit, you should read this. I mean, this Quas guy. No, Quas is very smart. I mean, he I swear, like last season, he was like, to me, he was the smartest top laner, the most consistent, solid top laner. So like, he knows what he's talking about, and everything on here applies to solo queue very, very well. So
yeah,
I completely agree after reading it.
We'll be throwing in a couple announcements here once the book gets released, so everyone that listens here will know when the soonest that they can pick it up is. So to throw it all together here,
real quick, was there any shout outs you wanted to do on your side there, Quas?
Well, I would just want to throw in a little bit of what John was saying, is that in this book there's a lot more than just top lane stuff. There's more of just like ranking up in general, and if you wanna just get to the next level, I guess there's a lot of information that you can get out of it. And I mean, if I was starting a game and I really wanted to get good at it, this would be like godsend pretty much, you know. It's just like everything compacted into a little book that you can just learn and try to like peek at the other, like the pro players' brains and see how they're looking at things. So but yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to add. And
what about if they play Riven?
Yeah. Well, actually, we're the nine.
Mobilefire.com.
We're tracking the stats from everyone we sell the book to. So, yeah, sorry, Riven players, no luck.
There we go.
Well, we ask this question kind of at the end of most of our interviews that we've been doing recently. So I want to take it and apply to top lane here. If there is one piece of information you give top laners right now that are looking to improve, what would that one piece of information be, or advice?
One piece of advice would be just playing the strongest champions in the metagame. Just giving up whatever your main is and just actually try to learn what the strongest champions are, and like getting familiar to what is it that makes them that strong. And when you learn those mechanics about the game off of that certain champion, then you'll learn more and carry that over to other playstyles. And I think that would be the best thing to improve. And I'll always also just watch streams from pro players, because when I started playing the game, that was, I guess I would say, the biggest thing that helped me out improve was just especially people who do commentary and explain what they're doing.
All right.
That would be another thing. Just look for a top laner that, I'm not sure if there's many right now, but I'll be starting streaming soon, so you can check me out.
There you go.
Right.
And just learning that, I guess, just mentality about top lane and all the strategy, and applying it into your games.
Quas, what's your stream? What's your Twitch?
You can find me at Quas LOL, twitch.tv Quas LOL.
All right.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes, too.
Yeah. So, thanks to everyone for coming on here. Quas, Pseudonaut, you've been great. It's been great talking to you guys about top lane. You can join Pseudonaut and Bloodwater next week here. We'll be talking about the Art of Support version 2.0 Electric Boogaloo. Full title of the book. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week. And thanks again, Quas, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Of course.